Hello, and thank you for joining us for the board meeting tonight. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. When you joined, you heard as an audience member that you are in listen-only mode. If you would like to speak during public comment, please use the raise your hand function to indicate to me that you would like to speak, and I will unmute you to do so. The raise your hand function is shown by a hand icon on your screen. Please know your webcam will still remain off and your comment will be audio only. And now I'll turn things over to President Grau to begin the meeting.
Thank you, Margaret. I'd like to call to order the regular board and public hearing meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Commissioners. It's Thursday, January 6th at 7 p.m. Would you call the roll, Mary Ann?
Sure. Commissioner Bundy?
Here.
Commissioner Bowe?
Here.
Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Hulting?
Here.
Commissioner Leduc?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Commissioner Grau?
Here. Okay, would anyone like to add, amend, or delete an item to the current agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. We have placed COVID protocols and the Oakton referendum on the agenda. So I'm looking for any public comment from someone who might want to comment on something other than those two items. And if you are interested in making public comment, please raise your hand and tell us who you are, and you have 3 minutes.
There is a little delay, so let's give it a second. No one's raising their hand.
Okay, we thought we were going to have someone. Let us move to the public hearing then. The Park Board will now hold a public hearing on the 2022 tentative combined annual budget and appropriation ordinance for the Park District. First, are there any written or oral comments from the commissioners? Hearing none. Are there any written or oral comments from the public? Okay, hearing none. I move to adjourn the public hearing of the Board of Park Commissioners. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay. Mary Ann, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bundy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the attorney report. Thank you, Dirk.
Well, I'm here really to talk about the Cook County Department of Public Health order that we have all now subject to in its ever-changing state. I would say to the Board of Commissioners that the staff really shone here. This came, over the break when people were supposed to be on vacation, and out of nowhere comes this order that was quickly pilloried and then refined and changed. And to their credit, nobody asked about why or complained that it was unfair. They all stepped up to try and come up with the necessary directives and policies and procedures that were required by the order so that we were able to move forward and comply. A lot of questions. Gail jumped in with the other executive directors that were impacted in the Park District world in Cook County to seek some further clarification and to seek some relief similar to what was happening in Chicago. Paderma got involved and made a bit of a mess of it a little bit by threatening everybody that if we didn't comply, they were going to deny coverage, when in fact they also believe, as I do, that in many respects the order is not enforceable against park districts, but that's for another day and another time. The important points of it that we got down to are that we figured out how to accommodate renters and affiliates in addition to the patrons that come to the facilities. We figured out how to move forward with the employees in a decent way, and also how to roll this thing out. I mean, you know, it began with 5-year-olds and now it's, you know, those over 18. But we had a plan for dealing with all of that to come up with a way forward. And you know, it presented challenges in that we don't have the staff to do all of these things and to be omnipresent at the door 24/7 for anything that's going on. But we got there. We call them procedures, not policies. We didn't bring them to the board as policies, in part because by their own admission, Cook County Department of Public Health says this is supposed to be temporary to deal with a spike that's ongoing now or that's feared to go on. The good news that everybody is published and talking about is that if South Africa's spike is any indication about what we can expect, that we can get through this by about the 1st or 2nd week of February. And let's hope that that's the case. So since this is temporary and since it's changing and fluid, my advice, and this is where Gail and I came down on it, is that these are procedures implemented under her authority, both over employees and over operations. And that they're not policies that the board needs to adopt, and then we have to call emergency meetings every time we need to change it to reflect the changing guidance of CCDPH or of the CDC. You know, for the longest time, for example, the CDC has told us that requiring a negative test to return to work is not appropriate because the test will show positivity months after you're no longer contagious. Also that they're not sufficient, and also that they don't exist. There aren't enough tests to go around, so we don't want people getting tests to come back to work when we need those tests to keep people to stay home in the first place. Well, now they're considering throwing that out. I don't know what will happen there, but that fluidity is the point about why we're not asking the board to adopt policies. We're making these operational procedures that Gail and the directors and the leadership team have implemented quickly, correctly. They've gotten the news out to people. We've checked off all the boxes in the order that we're required to do. Signage is up. And so unless there are questions, I would just say kudos to your staff who did an awesome job. Park Ridge Park District is doing everything it needs to do under the law and then some to keep people safe and deliver on its mission. I mean, you could have just closed. That was an alternative. That would have been simpler in many respects, but that's not what your staff did. They pursued and met the mission and did it, you know, coming back off vacation and everything else. So that's where we're at the Park Ridge Park District for the moment. And I'll answer any questions you might have about this thing.
I do have one question. How do you have an approximation of how many park districts in Cook County your firm represents?
I was giving advice to 5 myself. I'm trying to think of who else. So the ones that we have are, you know, next to you are Glenview, Kenilworth, Glencoe, but we also to the south have LaGrange and the Community Park District of LaGrange. So those were the ones I was dealing with on all of these things.
Yeah, we heard some mumblings, you know, that we should find other representation to, you know, check out the validity of this. And I just want to say I feel very confident in the representation we have from Ansel Glink, and that you're well versed in Park District business, and you delve into the details of how this affects us. And I feel very strongly that we're being given the best advice possible. So,
well, thank you, President Crowell. But you know, it's obvious if you do a Google search, it's easy to see. I'm no stranger to challenging the authority over park districts on these things. I mean, I brought the lawsuit that Naperville challenged the governor on this, And if people who think it's easy to bring these lawsuits and win them, the judge in that case said, I'm not getting into the park code. I don't care that health is one of your mission statements. I don't care what the code says. Bonnie Wheaton, the judge in DuPage, said, I'm not going to be the judge that opens the door to lawsuits from all over for everything about any of these orders. We're just not going to do it. The governor has the power. End of discussion. Never got into any of the finer details of this. And while people have insinuated that they want to bring lawsuits to challenge Cook County's order, they are aggrieved and can do it. You know, anybody who doesn't want to have to provide proof of a vaccination, they have standing to bring their own lawsuit. That they want the taxpayers to fund a lawsuit to do it, that's a hard choice for people to make. Naperville made it and took their share of lumps in both the press and from state agencies and all the rest. I would be cautious about advising anybody to do it again simply out of politics. But the idea that Ansel Glenn could shy away from a fight, that's frankly silly. I mean, I'd be the most aggressive person to do it, and I think Gail would tell you, we pushed here to give people implementation time, some forgiveness time on this stuff, so that we weren't going to shut people out from coming into our facilities on January 3rd, the day the order allegedly went into effect, because they didn't have a vaccination card. Hell, some people were never going to learn about this till they got there the first day. So we pushed to create as much elbow room as possible, willing to defend it. I had my share of, tense conversations with Derma about their threat not to cover anybody. That was ridiculous. And so, I appreciate that, but the idea that anybody's going to be more aggressive than me on these issues, that's going to be hard to prove. So I don't know who these people are, but
I would
Thank you,
probably
Chief.
second that.
Thank you. So thank you for your representation, and you're right, our staff once again did a fabulous job of pivoting to the next hoop that they had to go through. So any other questions, comments? Great. All right, next on our agenda is the executive director to talk about COVID.
Yeah, I wanted to, just go, and Dirk handled that very well, of course, and covered globally and, what happened, and he was irreplaceable to myself and the staff during the last week. This was a really tough one. This came upon, like Dirk said, December 23rd, to be put in effect January 3rd, with a lot of questions and mixed messages within the order, for example, about the school district, what could happen within the schools. I also had a contact that I had made during COVID, all these mitigations at Cook County Health Department, and got a hold of her, as well as other, several other Park District directors were communicating with the Cook County Health Department. I have to say my contact was very helpful, and she listened. And when the articles came out about the Chicago Park District changing course on New Year's Eve, I sent that to her, and she sent it right to leadership. So it sounded like they didn't even know about it yet. So we're very on top of this, myself and the staff, trying to get them to change the FAQs and some of the, messages that were being put out, and clarification, and pushing on, the school district versus Park District facilities. How is it that, they can do the same activity in a school that they can't do in a Park District? So I feel like we were very effective, along with the attorneys, in pushing for this clarification and for the fairness of this order. We understandably, the public's emotions were very high. Our frontline staff and managers were and continue to be inundated with compliance, and they're taking the brunt of people's frustration in a situation that is out of the Park District's control. Several of the full-time staff spent last week over the holidays communicating with several upset residents personally. So we're now checking people over. We're very glad that the Cook County Health Department followed Chicago and reversed for anybody under 18. So the order affects those over 18. And then also exempt our special rec participants. We're also dealing with May Niles, who was very challenged with this order. And then spectators are also spectators of facilities, and people just come in for like 10 minutes, picking up kids and dropping off, are exempt as well. There's all, the component Dirk mentioned about the employee order. That was a turnaround as well. That was unbelievable by Director Ganji and her staff of one, that all employees in the buildings that this affects, which is everywhere basically, except for in our maintenance facility. It's every public building. They had to provide proof of vaccination or a negative test weekly by January 3rd. The original order was giving us until February 9th. We were very lucky and strategic. I shouldn't call it lucky. We were very strategic in researching and purchasing a software program through Paycom that was an addition that made the efficient gathering of the data and uploading organization of these Vax cards from employees tremendously, much more efficient, as I had said. We had to come up with procedures to comply for employees, and we also had a standard that is on how we were going to implement this order, and that is already on the website. Myself, Superintendent Armour, and Director Holler developed that for everything that we've been doing with this order. The IT team stepped in, and our safety coordinator worked with our frontline staff. We implemented a program on RecTrack, a new program that also helps us with the verifying of the vaccine cards. So that is happening where it needs to happen and where we need to comply, which is, in any programs that are sports and fitness for over 18 years of age that are going to have a high respiratory or heart rate level, advanced level of heart rate or respiratory rate. We had to implement our agreement form for vaccination status for rentals and affiliates to sign to attest they're responsible for complying with the Cook County Department of Health Order 2021-11. So Apparently Price provided that, and our staff worked with that and got that out to all of those patrons. As we stated, this is an order from Cook County Department of Public Health that the Park District did not have a choice in implementing. Staff, as usual, stepped up and did what was necessary to comply. I want to extend my gratitude to the staff involved, particularly the frontline staff at the facilities, the managers and supervisors, Superintendent Armour and her staff, Director DeGangi, Director Holler, Manager Myers, who were all instrumental in leading the team and turning this order around in a record time within 5 days over the holidays. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about this information.
I just actually had a quick question based on, my readings actually is just, also a customer of the Park District as well as a commissioner. So with this new RecTrack system, will it also be then families will just be able to bring in their vaccine cards, you'll enter into the system, and then they'll be set for all the activities, right? I just wanted to clarify that.
That for now, yes, that's for anybody that is, has to apply with the order or, go along with the order right now. That's what we're doing. So was that your question, Jennifer?
Yes, and hopefully it's easier than the Power School system for D64, which was.
I can't speak to that.
All right, thank you. I just wanted that
Sure.
little clarification
Yes.
for the
Yes.
5 people watching.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to comment, this is another example where you guys made technology work for us, and that's great. I mean, thank you for all the human effort that went into this, and the frontline staff, God bless them, because I know they're getting pounded.
Yeah.
And I know Margaret gets nasty emails every day and fights it out on Facebook. So
we got a lot of people threatening lawsuits. We got the management team got those ones, and I talked to a lot of people. I know Superintendent Armour talked to a lot of people. Margaret did, to really try to explain it, and because we understood, we understood them being upset. It's just that that's why we put that Cook County information out there. I asked my contact. I said, who at Cook County is going to take these phone calls, and, that's when she gave me that email, that Healthy Cook
Yeah.
County, whatever that email was. So thank
Well,
you.
that's great customer service. All right, anything else? Move on to Oakton.
Sure.
Do you want to kick it off? Is there any of the emails that went out, like maybe that difficult one, the numbers one, or is there anything that you want to, highlight that's different from, or?
I don't think so. I think, I just wanted to mention, I know there's some people in the audience, I believe, that want to express their feelings about the referendum. We did get letters. I was asked by a commissioner to, what the affiliates thought. We did get letters of support from speed skating, soccer, baseball, and football. Those were all sent to the commissioners. And I asked Manager Lucars to put those in the record for us as well. But no, I think that, I think that I'm good unless any of the commissioners have questions about that information that was being sent out.
Well, maybe it's good to go to the public comment and then the commissioner. Yeah. Okay. If anyone in the audience has public comment about the Oakton referendum, press the raise your hand button and Margaret will let you in one at a time. Please let us know your name and you have approximately 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, Chris Parson actually raised his hand first, so I've unmuted you, Chris. If you want to unmute yourself, you could speak.
I'm going to set my little timer.
If I can do that. Okay, cool.
Yep, we could hear you.
All right, commissioners and Park District staff, first let me express my appreciation to the commissioners for stepping up to serve our community. I know you get a lot of complaints. Robert Frost said poetry is about the grief, politics about the grievances. Well, you're in the business of grievances. I appreciate that you take the time and are willing to do it. As a community, we're so lucky to have good people like you all to give your time and talent to guide our fabulous Park District for the benefit of all. Thanks also to our professional staff who work tirelessly to steward our open space and programming that benefits so many. But tonight, I'm here to speak in opposition to the proposed redevelopment plan being considered for Oakton Park. I'm opposed to the current proposal primarily because it will result in the loss of too many trees, two meaning all in caps, please, especially mature oaks. The benefits of these trees is externalized and not accounted for as we evaluate the cost of the proposed redevelopment of the Oakton site. Some of those trees targeted for removal have provided benefits to the community for 150 years and more. What's the value of that? Even if you replace the lost trees, it would take 80 to 100 years for those new trees to provide the level of benefit we currently receive from the existing trees. So preserving trees is a very important issue for me. For me, this is just too great a cost, and as a result, I'll be opposing the proposed referendum as the full referendum. In addition, from my conversations with neighbors and friends, you should expect organized opposition to the larger referendum. I do support repairs and improvements to the ice sheet, assuming that this does not result in the loss of healthy, mature trees on the site. I have also, on another side issue or part of the same issue, I've also seen some data that suggests that the health of some of the existing trees on the site are only fair. I would argue that this may be in part due to the unnatural area under the existing trees. These trees in nature do not exist surrounded by compacted soils planted in non-native turf grass that over the years has most likely been treated with artificial fertilizers and herbicides. I urge you to naturalize the area under the trees that remain to help the ecosystem thrive and the trees to remain healthy. Leave the leaves, plant the area with rich variety of woodland plants and shrubs, and encourage regeneration of young trees, oaks, and hickories. I really appreciate your attention to my views and especially for your service to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, next I have Gary Martin. Gary, I unmuted you, so you can unmute yourself now.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I'll take less than 3 minutes. and only say that we wrote, a letter of support. Obviously, we're trying to be supportive of the overall project, but particularly the skating rink part. In response to the first person, I'm very much care about the trees. Also, I wish there was a way to do the overall plan without attacking any of the trees. And obviously, some compromise proposals are things that the board is going to consider. But in terms of the rink itself, I think that doesn't have to impact any trees. And hopefully people realize how important it is to at least renovate and repair the existing rink. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for your work on the task force.
Okay, next I have Lynn. Lynn, I'm going to ask you to say your own last name. I unmuted you. You could unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lynn Hatikostanis. I'm a resident of Park Ridge and have 3 children who are heavily involved in the Northern Express Hockey Organization. I'm here to share my support for the proposed Oakton renovation, the full renovation, not only as a resident, but on behalf of the Express organization. I serve as secretary on our club's board of directors. I manage 2 of the 3 boys hockey teams, and I spend a lot of nights and weekends, I will tell you 7 days a week, at Oakton with other Park Ridge families and parents who have young children involved in both hockey and the Park District Learn to Skate classes. In talking with those parents and with our community members, the benefits of this renovation and what they would provide Park Ridge residents is exciting for us to think about. Many of us travel to many different rinks in the different community areas, and especially between my 3 kids' teams, we go to both private and Park District rinks. We've seen many facilities. There is no question that Oakton needs this renovation and update, especially because communities not far from ours have invested in their own facilities. Ones that come to mind are Mount Prospect and Glenview. And Glenview is a Park District rink, which has invested in its rinks, added ice sheets, and they have seen growth in both their Park District programming and in their numbers in their different programs. We have great programming in our Park District. And with this renovation, there's a lot of potential to continue to grow and develop that programming for our own residents. The renovation updates the facility. It creates opportunities for developmental programming with the Learn to Skate and a house hockey program, which we don't have. And we can utilize that studio rink, opening up the main rink for more ice time for all of the other ice programs, and utilizing Oakton better. And the excitement of the possibility of creating more house league opportunities for more kids to participate in hockey is exciting as well, and not leave to go to other communities like Glenview, Mount Prospect, and Niles. The Express Club itself has a vested interest in Oakton and this project. We want to see our club grow with more Park Ridge families, especially as currently the club has very many young families in it now in Park Ridge. We want to continue to have that community rink and family-based feel there. In speaking as a resident, aside from the obvious ice benefits our club would receive from the renovation, my boys and many of the Park Ridge families in the club also play other Park Ridge youth sports. The addition of the artificial turf as another training area, as a space for our Park Ridge kids to continue playing flag football, soccer, baseball, lacrosse is exciting, and another necessity for our community as a whole. And it can only enhance our Park District programming for our children and our residents. And to speak to the trees, I've been to a couple of our meetings that have been held over the last few months. And I want to thank the different designs. And I know you guys have put a lot of time and work and effort into that in looking at the number of trees that would be affected. And this proposal itself, if I remember correctly, was one that removed the least amount of trees from the plan. So thank you for taking that into account for our community as well. The Express organization firmly stands behind and supports the proposed renovation at Oakton, and I want to thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, Peter Mearswa, I unmuted you. You could speak. You need to unmute yourself.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Very good. First, I'd like to echo all the thank yous that have been given to both the board as well as the staff for the really significant efforts that went into putting together all the research, the community outreach, everything to understand the needs and the desires of the community for some of the things that are going into this plan. I really wanted to make sure I was on this call to clarify the position of Park Ridge Soccer. We are in favor, 100% in favor of the full proposal, and there's lots of reasons why. But I just wanted to be sure that was clear, because I listened to the last meeting and it seemed like there was some uncertainty as to our level of support. So I wanted to make sure that we clarified that at the outset. I think the full plan is what you ought to pursue, in part because it really takes into consideration all the benefits that the full community could take advantage of. It's clear that the ice needs to be replaced, but this is a huge one-time opportunity you have to build something that can keep people within the community. And speaking for our club, you're talking between 1,500 and 2,000 individual participants who might be able to or be interested in taking advantage of this indoor turf facility that otherwise we would be traveling outside, and currently do travel outside of our community to try to take advantage of. So from our perspective, this is a wonderful plan, wonderful opportunity for the full community of Park Ridge that we will be fully supporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
If anybody else would like to speak, please raise your hand. No, I do. Amy Bertucci, you could unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yay. It's weird to be looking at boxes, but you not be able to see me. So apologies. I'm going to make it short and sweet. I wasn't really thinking that I'd be speaking tonight, but I wanted to make sure I echo Chris Parson, the first speaker this evening. And most of my comments in regards to this plan have been from the lens of a task force member. I've been participating since the beginning of this project and trying to wrap my brain around what is really the next best step for this community. I'm an environmentalist at heart, but I want to make sure everyone on this call and anyone who were to be reading the minutes were to be aware, in addition to being in support of keeping those trees, I have been opposed to this project because of the health concerns over an athletic turf. Being on the task force, I made sure my voice was heard in small groups and also publicly when we were able to give our recommendation at the close of the evening. I won't be working publicly against if the referendum were to come, but I want to make sure it is well known that I've been around here long enough to know people, and I speak my mind, and I have a lot of concern over the decision if this were to be the next step for the Park District. We can do hard things. I'm sure you're hearing that a lot these days. I've listened to the COVID concerns and all of the pivoting that this Park District has needed to do, but I do think that this plan right now is one of those things that we need to really rethink. I'm in support of the hockey and all of the things that are to be prioritized related to the building that needs to be remodeled. The athletic turf is something that I feel like needs to be left out of this plan. So I was the only task force member to vote against this. I think by the end it had dwindled down to a very small percentage of people. And I just want to make sure tonight you're very aware that I think that doing hard things and being able to really think of this plan is not the right time for that indoor turf field because of the environmental and the health impacts related to plastics and air quality and et cetera. All of the things that I've shared with board members as well as task force members that have asked me in regards to my opinion on this. So that's it. I just want to make sure y'all were aware and publicly stating that I'm still opposed to the very large plan that you have in place in front of you, but I do support any of the remodeling that needs to happen for the skating and the building itself for Oakton. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
If anybody else would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion.
Sorry, did I do that? Sorry, I thought I was just muting the audience again. No, it didn't work. I'm sorry, I'm hitting the button. Let me get to you.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry.
I am now unmuted.
Sorry.
That was a quick meeting. Oh, thumbs down.
Sorry.
Oh man.
Unmuting y'all now.
Okay, so I think Gail had said if anyone had any questions about the new data we received in the last couple of days, maybe we can cover that. If there is any, if anyone didn't have an opportunity to ask, or I don't see any. Okay. I'm not really sure how to kick this off. Does someone feel real strongly about kicking it off? Questions, thoughts?
No, I wanted to just take a moment to remind everybody what a great process this was, and that it's still an ongoing process. We're still getting more input, more feedback from the community. But I have to definitely point out the great steps that the Park District staff have taken in terms of collecting the necessary data that tries to depict all of the various points of view from the members of our community. And I can't say enough about how thorough that has been, whether it's the phone surveys, the email surveys. It's been going out to countless different organizations and talking with people. I think this is somewhat overlooked by some in the community, but I have to give kudos once again to the way this process has unfolded, because it's been very thorough. That was a conversation stopper, huh?
Thank you. I'll thank you for that, Commissioner
You want
Buckle.
to say, do you just want to recap your position, or has anything changed, or any new insights, or?
Well, if there's no other comments, I do want to just reiterate that at this point, given the current environment, uncertainty in the future, the change in a variety of it's hard to be certain where the future lies. And I do believe we need to be cautious. I'm a huge supporter of the ice skating facilities, the complex that's there, that exists. And I do believe that we really, it's time for that facility to be upgraded and made competitive with the various other ice skating facilities in the area. But I do also believe that we do need to look at a smaller, less expensive project, because I don't think this is the time to move forward with the large project as it's proposed. At this point, the master plan can be exactly that. It can be a plan for, let's start with the things that really have to be and should have been done years ago, which is to update the ice skating rink. But in the future, we can consider the larger turf facility. I just don't think that right now is the time to be going with that kind of an expansion. And we need to preserve the great facilities that we have there right now, given the circumstances. So that's where I lie, and I hope people understand that. It's not an easy decision to come up with that kind of a thing, but I do think it's the most viable for the near future.
Thank you for kicking that off, Rob. Looks like Jennifer. I see Jennifer next.
Well, I respectfully disagree. It is a difficult decision, and there is a lot of uncertainty, but also if we are going to spend this kind of money, and even doing the smaller project is still over $20 million, I think it's better to spend the additional monies and make a project that serves more facets of the community, more organizations, fills more needs. And as far as the environmental impact goes, like I don't love the tree cutting part either. That's definitely, for me, that's the hardest part of it. But the other thing I was thinking of is, okay, if we didn't do it there, first of all, we don't have another good spot where we could do it. But even if we did magically have another plot of property where we could build an additional indoor turf facility, I feel like the environmental impact would be worse if we're at multiple sites. And as far as doing the small project now and doing the longer one or the bigger one possibly in the future, the problem with that is that's going to make the cost much higher. Costs always generally go up, and doing it piecemeal tends to make things more expensive. So, I mean, and also I just feel like if we are asking, the taxpayers, if we're going to ask the taxpayers, what do you think of this? I think it makes sense to have it be a project that is comprehensive, that fills numerous gaps, because, with all due, yes, I think it's great that updating the ice facilities, adding a studio rink helps out figure skating and hockey and speed skating and learn to skate and all these other programs. But I think it's good to also have programming, a space that provides additional programming and additional resources for other segments of the community for something that's going to be this big of an ask. And when I looked at the data that Gail forwarded to us about the community response, it definitely seems that it's actually a more viable project in terms of sending it to referendum and with more support if we have the bigger project. So to me, I understand the concerns of my fellow citizens and some of my fellow commissioners, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's the more responsible choice to go for the larger facility. And then if the community says no, the community says no. But I think it's better to go for the facility that meets, like I said, meets more community needs, because it's going to be a large price tag either way. Thank you.
I thought Joan next and then Matt. Yeah, we're waiting for you. All right, Matt, are you ready?
Yeah, I have two things. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And I'll keep it short because I think we've discussed this quite in depth, and there isn't a whole lot of new information since the last time we discussed it. But one piece of information that came in was that I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, someone chime in, but when I read the stats about the people that were in favor of going forward with a project, the majority of those people wanted the larger project. Is that a correct reading of the data that we were sent today or yesterday? If that is the correct reading, and again, you can correct me, please chime in.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Okay, then we go back to my own original it's not my own original thing, but my philosophy on this whole thing about referendum is that we come back with the plan that the public seems to want, the best possible plan, and we put it to them for a vote. We don't have to like the plan necessarily, but it helps if we do, I suppose. But if we designed a plan based on input, we came to a plan. The larger plan has the support of the people that want to go forward with the project, and therefore I think that putting the larger plan to them and letting them vote is the responsible thing to do. As Commissioner Leduc said, the public may come back and decide that they don't want to spend that money, but that would be the public's decision. So there isn't a whole lot of extra information that we were given that indicates, oh my God, we're going to do this and it's going to be terrible. Quite the contrary. So I'd like to just make sure that we don't have to support one or the other of the projects. What we should be doing, in my opinion, is presenting the best possible plan to the public and letting them decide if that's what they want. The last thing I'll say is that as a point of order, and again, perfectly willing to, I don't have my Robert's Rules of Order handy. I think we were supposed to read the motion and then have this discussion, but whatever way you all want to do it is okay with me. I just want to, make sure. And that's all I have to say.
If you read the agenda, it says board discussion.
I think am I unmuted?
I might have misread board discussion. It could have been on, well, no, it's under Oakton Park. So the board discussion was first. That way you can't call the question, Matt.
I stand corrected on it.
Yeah, I think you can hear me now, huh? Yeah. Okay. I want to put on the record why I will be voting no for tonight's $31.7 million motion. But first, I'd like to thank the staff for all the heavy lifting of getting this project to where it is, with all the brainstorming and researching and talking to various community groups. I know it was countless hours over the last 5 years, and we pay you to be creative and think outside the box, and you always give us 100%. So thank you. I know your efforts are appreciated by all of the commissioners. But I think this project has snowballed and morphed into a very expensive and not very environmentally friendly renovation. It is really beyond the scope of what this park district should take on. Inflation is rising fast. The Fed is projected to raise interest rates 2 to 3 times this year. And most importantly, the mechanicals are on life support. Waiting until November lacks urgency and, quite frankly, confidence in this project. Forget the turf field, forget the tall poles. We have an immediate problem that needs fixing now. I hope the voters will understand the necessity of fixing a 52-year-old ice rink, and that we are trying to be good stewards of their tax dollars. Sure, we considered some extra bells and whistles, who wouldn't? But now we have to get serious, and June is the time to put on the ballot a referendum that has a best chance of, a referendum that I think has the best chance of passing. And for me, I think, and for a majority of voters, I really believe it's not the $31 million one. Commissioners, let's take a step back and put a skinnier foot forward. Thank you.
I'd like to see a skinny foot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
I think I have one skinny foot and one normal foot, but I'll let that be the transition into my comments, if that is allowed. The
Of
foot
course.
transition.
Raise your foot.
First of all, I really appreciate all the environmental concern from commenters and commissioners. I'm a 20-year employee of the US EPA, and it warms my heart to hear this environmental concern on a Park Ridge elected board. So I'm looking forward in the future to looking at the operations of the park district across the district and looking at ways we can become more sustainable, not just looking at this project in isolation, but looking at the operations of the district more broadly. But Commissioner Leduc and Commissioner Coyne made some of the points I was going to make about the bigger plan making sense in terms of serving more users, being more, having broader appeal in the referendum to those who are most likely to vote in the referendum. It has the support of our staff. Everyone is in agreement about the work that our staff has been put in. I'm a government employee too, and I always appreciate it when our appointees and our elected officials listen to the deep expertise of the staff. So I know how much work they've done, and I trust in their expertise that this is a good plan from a recreation standpoint as well as a financial standpoint. So it's been recommended by the last board. It was recommended by the staff. It was recommended by most of the task force, and it's supported by our partners, our relevant affiliates. So for those reasons, and I won't keep going, I'm in favor of the larger plan. And I want to thank the commissioners who are in favor of the smaller plan. I have read your emails, had conversations, and I really appreciate and respect your viewpoints and you as humans and commissioners. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody, staff and commissioners, for all the thought that has gone into this, because it is a very hard decision.
Okay, I have something I want to say if Commissioner Tunnel is not gonna, are you okay?
I thank you, everyone. Like, it's been a long process. I've been, listening to this for a long time, and good points on, from the participants that called in. I really do appreciate the input, and I agree with a lot of what everybody said. So thank you. Go ahead, President Grau.
Oh, thank you. I just want to thank you all for the spirit of your conversation. It's like a love fest here. So, and thank you for the people who are listening and showed up to comment. Although I've been opposed to this plan all along, it has become a stronger plan because of discussions like we're having tonight, and I do appreciate that. I do feel as an environmentalist that we're experiencing a climate crisis, and in my mind, this project is deaf to that. That location is a unique oak savanna. One time it probably had a lot more oaks before that driving range was put in, and then if you look at the interstate that cut right through there, and it's still a habitat. Even in this urban environment, there's living things depending on that habitat there. I've been there several times and noted some cool wildlife there. But anyway, in my opinion, it deserves preservation much more than the forest preserve lot next to it that's virtually trash. In my opinion, this is the wrong place for a new building. And in terms of benefits for humans, those 32 healthy trees we're taking down, I did some research on trees, and they prevent 16,413 gallons of stormwater runoff each year, and they intercept 45,535 gallons of stormwater runoff per year. And that's water that doesn't even get to the ground because of the leaves. Some of that will be absorbed by permeable pavers in parts of the parking lot, but that water still will be processed by our sewers. And the amount not caught in the parking lot will immediately hit sewers. And the trees are also capturing yearly 5,000 pounds of CO2. And those are the healthy trees. There's also unhealthy trees on that. 17 trees rated in poor condition that will be coming down. And in addition to that, there's 40 other trees on the site in poor condition that are recommended to come down at some point. So we read there's 299 trees on that site, but approximately, 100 of them are going to come down. And that's quick math, so I might have done that wrong. But in addition, I'm not a fan of indoor turf, as it's not been proven healthy for users and must continue to be replaced. And there's no place to recycle that turf. And then we've also heard of the rationale about being able to serve our residents in town. This location may not make it easier for all patrons to get to other options due to its location by the train tracks. La Verde is much closer to my house, and I believe that area is poorly serviced by our roads. I understand that we're putting this all together to fund a successful skating program. I don't know that spending an additional $9 million for the turf is money greatly spent. Over 30 years, we'll recoup $5 million. And I still don't totally understand the finances of that. I think that this plan is the best that could be done by looking at this site, but it is not the only option that we have to subsidize the ice rink. And I believe it's being presented as such. I don't make this decision lightly. I've agonized over this for months. It'd be much easier for me to agree with the program, but I believe sustainability is part of our mission, and we need to preserve and improve the natural resources we have at Oakton. After it all, it is called Oakton. So with that, I had one other question. Gail, I think you were going to ask Terry about worst case scenario with the rink. Somebody was maybe going to look under the ice to see, do we have any update on worst case scenario, or did we get all that data?
I believe we provided you an answer with to that question. I can look back. Terry, are you recalling? I think that we said the worst case scenario would be, if the rink, if there was a leak underneath that was over a certain, amount of money, we would come to the board and discuss does it make sense to repair that?
Right.
And if not, we would have to shut down the rink, for a period of time.
Yeah, did we have an inspection done though under the ice, or weren't you going to have one more inspection done? I don't remember that. Terry, we can't hear.
Thank you, Margaret.
Wow.
There's no way for us to inspect underneath the ice without being disruptive to the operations or system at this time. So I do vaguely remember this, and I was just quickly trying to search and find correspondence. But worst case scenario, as Gail mentioned, is that we would have to shut the rink down. If we had a large expense, we would certainly have to bring it to the board if it was in excess of Gail's spending authority to make necessary repairs. But further, we had some additional conversations with White about other opportunities that are out there. There are some opportunities that we could potentially get, like a replacement temporary mat that we could put the ice on. We would lose the ice for a short period of time, bring in a mat similar to what's used at other, like the Rosemont rink or whatever, put that indoors. There's other ways that, and new products that they've got to fix smaller leaks in situations like this, if we were to develop a small leak under the rink. We do make repairs on this rink just as we do with any of our mechanical systems across the district regularly. One of the things that we have to our benefit right now is that we have a nearby rink that's being decommissioned and being renovated, and that Executive Director Mountcastle's reached out to that Park District Executive Director, and they've committed to allowing us to use and have some of those parts that'll help us in the interim, which is certainly a better position than we've been in over the last couple of years even. So to me, that puts me in a more comfortable spot than I've been to get us through these next several months and years if there's going to be a renovation there. So.
Other comments? Questions? All right, well, we'll move on. I'll make the motion. I move to direct staff to start the bond referendum process for November 2022 election to include the $31.7 million proposal for the Oakton Park and Facility Plan.
Second.
Is there any discussion? So we're voting on two parts. We're voting on the amount and the date. I think everyone who indicated they were for were also for the November date. I was going to check that before I made the motion, but we're okay moving forward with the full, the 31 and the November date. Okay, can you call the vote?
Commissioner Bendy?
No.
Commissioner Bowe?
No.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Aye.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
No. All right, we'll move on to the approval of intergovernmental agreement for facilities use for the Beyond the Bell. I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for facility use and operation of a before and after school recreation program between the Board of Education of Park Ridge Niles Community Consolidated School District number 64 and the Park Ridge Park District, and to authorize the president and secretary to execute and deliver such agreement. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Gail, did you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, I just want to quickly run through, the changes that were in this agreement. We have had a Beyond the Bell agreement, of course, in the past with the school district. It was an expired agreement, and the school district initiated updating this agreement. We also have a full agreement with the school that needs to be updated, which we're going to tackle next, that we've been working on with the past administration. This agreement will be valid for the remainder of the school year. This is meant to be and will be in the future one-year agreements going forward. Superintendent Armour and I worked with the administration from the school district on these changes. It's been reviewed by the attorneys of both organizations. I want to point out our appreciation to the school district for waiving the $75,000 payment for this year due to the reduction of available space in the schools. Due to their needs for COVID and spreading out their classrooms and the need for the space. Also because of the lower participation numbers. There were some minor additions of things that we were complying with, sections E and F. And those were just putting in writing the requirement for the park district to follow the school district policies, rules, and procedures. Also, number 4 on page 3 of the document, and page 5 of the board packet. They did add a disclaimer into the space allowable for this year, as I had discussed above, that due to their needs for the space because of COVID and what is happening at the schools and their needs. So we will, be, of course, and they are flexible. If things change, they are certainly open to giving us back some of the space we've had in the past. And then the last item on the contract was added by the attorney from the school district, number 17, page 7 of the agreement and page 9 of the board packet, concerning confidentiality of the participation information. So those were the changes in the agreement.
Thank you. That seemed like it was a smooth process to get ironed out, which is
yes,
great.
it was.
That's
it was
wonderful.
Just a few meetings back and forth, and yes, minimal time with the attorneys. So
that's
worked out well. No offense, Amber.
Any questions? Okay, Marianne, you ready? Call the vote.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau.
Yes. I thought maybe you forgot me. Okay, any new business?
I think we should go back to
The
finance.
budget.
Oh gosh, I'm
Just
sorry.
that minor thing. Sandra almost had a heart attack there.
We had the
But,
hearing.
but,
We had the hearing. I thought it was strange when I read through. I was like, oh, we didn't approve it. We had the hearing. I'm sorry. John, I think I've done that to you twice now. I'm really sorry.
it's all
right.
good.
Adoption of the B&A.
Woohoo! Superintendent DeAngelis, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. So this would be the adoption of the 2022 budget. The board approved the budget in tentative form back at the first meeting in December. It has been on public display. And my understanding is we had no comment at our hearing. I apologize for my technical difficulties and joining us late. So there's not been any changes. This would be the board now just adopting the final budget.
Thank you for that. And I move to approve ordinance number 21-6, the combined annual budget and appropriation ordinance of the Park Ridge Park District and the Board of Park Commissioners of the Park Ridge Park District, Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022 and ending December 31, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Comments, concerns? Hearing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Coyne.
No.
Commissioner Hulting.
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
Commissioner Tuttle.
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy.
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe.
Yes.
Commissioner Grau.
Yes. All right, now we move on to new business. Is there any new business? Wow,
I do not
great.
have any.
That's great. All right, I move to adjourn.
Can I just make one quick comment?
Sorry.
I just want to say it really is great that even when there were widely disparate opinions, everybody was so respectful. And I especially say that because my son is working on his communications merit badge. So he's in the other room and observing all this. And I was definitely like, ooh, I hope tonight goes smoothly. And it's not a little crazy to have the 11-year-old watching. But of course, this group managed to be respectful and have a good discussion. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you to my fellow commissioners and to the
Uh-oh, we have a hand up in the audience for new business.
We have an audience member with their hand up. Would you like me to unmute her?
Sure, why not?
Lorette, you could unmute yourself to speak. I see you're unmuted, so you should be able to speak.
Can you state your name and let us know in 3 minutes what you'd like to say?
Her mic shows that she's unmuted, so.
Okay, well, maybe you can email us. I'm sorry. All right, so I'm going to move to adjourn unless there's anything else. Raise your hand. Okay, I move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Can you say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Aye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good evening. Thanks.